My mother-in-law said something really hurtful to me while we were at a restaurant. She made it clear she didn't think I belonged there. She even hinted that because I wasn't her blood relative, I didn't matter as much. It made me so mad that I wanted to leave right away. As I got up to go, she stopped me and told me to pay for the meal if I was leaving early. But I wasn't about to pay for someone else's food after being treated like that. I stood my ground and refused. My name is Maya, and I work in an office. My husband Terrell and I are happy together, except for one big problem: his mom. She's always criticizing me and meddling in our lives. Even when I tell Terrell about it, he doesn't see the problem. He thinks she's just being a caring mom, but I know better. As time went on, my mother-in-law's interference in our lives got even worse. She had a key to our house, given to her by my husband, and she just let herself in whenever she pleased. She criticized everything and spread rumors about me to our neighbors. I begged my husband to move us somewhere else, but he didn't seem to care much, too caught up in his work. Then, something changed. He got a big promotion and a raise thanks to a successful project. Seeing this as our chance to make a fresh start, I suggested we start a family. Now that we have more money, maybe it's time to think about having kids, I said, hoping this would make him realize how toxic his mother's behavior was. But he had another idea. He thought if we were going to have children, we should live in a town that's better for them. There aren't many places for kids to go here, like daycare centers or parks. Shouldn't we move somewhere more family-friendly? Finally, he agreed to move, which made me even happier than his promotion did. But that happiness didn't last long. The next day, my mother-in-law showed up unannounced like she always did. I was annoyed, thinking she was going to start criticizing again, but something seemed off this time. I want to celebrate my son's promotion, so I've booked a fancy restaurant. It's really expensive, but it's classy. The food is amazing, and the staff is great. Everyone says good things about it, she told me, inviting me to come along. Sounds nice. Good for you, I said, trying to be polite, even though I was still not happy with her. Well, forget about your schedule. I really want you to come to this restaurant, she insisted. I'll take a look at my schedule, but I'm not sure if I can make it, I said. Don't say that. We really want you there, she insisted, not taking no for an answer. Even though I responded that way, she just smirked and left. It was strange because she had been excluding me before, but now she was inviting me and insisting that she'd wait. Something didn't feel right. When I asked my husband about it later, he said he had already promised his mother that we would go together. She had booked that restaurant specifically for us, and he was excited about it. Don't you feel the same way, Maya? He asked. Sorry, but I'm not excited about it. I'm worried about how much money we'll spend at such an expensive place. I really don't want to go. Just tell them I have something urgent and go enjoy yourself, I replied, feeling uneasy about the situation. Why are you being so negative? Plus, it's not just us going to the restaurant. My brothers are bringing their wives too. It wouldn't look good if you weren't there with the whole family, my husband insisted, excited about going to a fancy restaurant for the first time. Even though I didn't want to go, I felt like I had to. My husband wasn't listening to me anymore. If he trusted my mother-in-law more than me, I decided to secretly record her behavior with a voice recorder I bought online. I had a feeling she would continue her harassment at the celebration. I planned to record it and play it for my husband later. If he still didn't believe me, I was ready to consider divorce. Making that decision made me feel a little better. Still, the day we were supposed to meet my mother-in-law at the restaurant felt really gloomy, and I couldn't stop sighing. I barely knew my husband's brothers, having only met them at the wedding, and I hadn't really talked to their wives beyond saying hello. When we got to the restaurant, the waiter led us to a big room where my mother-in-law, my husband's other brother and his wife, and the third brother and his wife were already sitting. There was one empty seat at the table. My husband looked confused. Did the waiter make a mistake with the seats? He wondered out loud. I'll go ask. Everyone, go ahead and start eating, he said, leaving the room. As soon as he left, my mother-in-law stood up, her face looking mean. "There's no seat for you. Why would I invite a stranger who just married my son to a family celebration?" she said, sounding really rude. "So you have a choice. Prove you really want to be part of this family or leave and never come back. Decide now." "I'm leaving," I said right away. My mother-in-law looked surprised for a moment. Did she really think I'd beg her to accept me as family after this? No way. "Listen to me carefully. If you foot the entire bill for everyone here, I'll acknowledge you as Terrell's wife. I understand you must be feeling frustrated being treated like an outsider, so pay up and become part of the family," she demanded. "I already told you I'm leaving." "Why should I cover the expenses for someone else's family gathering?" I shot back, turning away from her. My mother-in-law banged her hand on the table and yelled, "Can't you see? I'm offering you a chance to be part of the family. Are you really okay with remaining a stranger? Pay up." "No, I'm perfectly fine being seen as a stranger. And since I'm not family, I won't be paying for your meal." "Goodbye, mother-in-law," I said firmly, and I walked out. She tried to catch up to me, but by the time she reached the entrance of the room, I was already at the exit of the restaurant. When I got home, planning to email my husband about what happened, he surprisingly returned within just 10 minutes. The waiter confirmed that there was no mistake with the reservation, and my mom was causing a scene, he explained. It seemed like my decision to stand up for myself had inspired the wives of my husband's brothers as well. They had been enduring my mother-in-law's mistreatment silently, but seeing me speak up gave them the courage to do the same. In a bold move, both of them left the restaurant, and our husbands, the eldest and third sons, hurriedly followed them. I was prepared for my mother-in-law's backlash, and sure enough, within 3 hours, the phone started ringing nonstop. It was so disruptive that I eventually blocked her calls. However, one call managed to get through from an unknown number. "Hello, sorry for calling so late. Is this Maya's mobile phone?" The man on the other end introduced himself as a police officer from the nearby police station. He informed me that after everyone left, my mother-in-law tried to eat what she could and then attempted to make me pay the bill. However, the restaurant staff, already unhappy with her behavior earlier, refused her request. They thought I wouldn't come back to pay after leaving upset. Ignoring her calls, my mother-in-law was advised to pay by card, but she didn't have one and didn't bring enough cash to cover everyone's meals. Desperate, she tried reaching out to other family members to help cover the costs, but no one responded. Frustrated and angry, she started yelling and blamed me entirely for the situation. Her anger got worse, and she ended up breaking expensive vases and flower pots in the restaurant. This caused the restaurant to call the police. The officers managed to calm my mother-in-law down, but she refused to admit any fault. The restaurant didn't get paid, and they had a difficult customer on their hands. They asked the police to escort her home. Feeling guilty for ignoring a call from the police, my husband and I reluctantly went back to the restaurant. When we arrived, the police were trying to calm my mother-in-law down. When she saw me, she glared and yelled, "You're useless. This mess happened because you didn't pay the bill. It's only natural to help your mother, isn't it? Pay up now." I was completely shocked when my mother-in-law said something almost threatening, even with the police around. They had already made it clear that if no one took her home, they would either drive her to her in-laws' house in a patrol car or arrest her for leaving without paying. "Please take her away, arrest her, or do whatever you need to do. Just make her take responsibility," I said firmly, my voice firm and determined. My mother-in-law looked shocked at my words. "How could you say something so heartless? I can't believe it. Just pay the bill. It's bad luck to have a family member arrested," she pleaded. "I don't care. I'm not family, and I don't want to be associated with someone who's acting irrationally and causing a disturbance," I replied firmly, trying to leave the restaurant and leave the situation for the police to handle. However, my husband, who had stayed quiet until now, gave me a stern look. "I understand that what happened to Maya was awful, But is it really serious enough to warrant arrest? He asked, defending his mother. You're missing the point. She's in trouble with the police because she tried to leave without paying and caused a scene. It has nothing to do with me. Or are you suggesting that I should be responsible for paying for 6 people's meals, even though I didn't eat? I countered. My husband fell silent, but walked past me towards the police and the restaurant staff. I knew what he was planning to do. Expecting his actions, I called out to him as he walked away. If you're going to pay for her meal and compensate them, we're getting divorced. Think about that. My husband didn't say anything in response to my words and silently took out his wallet. Feeling hurt and betrayed, I left the restaurant and walked back home along the familiar road. I began packing my essential belongings, getting ready to leave. Just before the day changed, my husband finally returned. Mom's not getting arrested. It seems she was really in the wrong. But the restaurant said they'd forgive her if I compensated them and promised she'd never come back. I didn't have nearly enough money, so I had my brothers come and help. Oh, I'm so tired, he explained, his voice sounding exhausted. He kept talking about what happened after I left, seeming irritated by my lack of response. Then he noticed my packed bags and approached me. Hey, what's with these bags? He asked, looking confused. I'm getting ready to leave because we're getting divorced. I told you that if you sided with her, we get divorced. You can't say you didn't hear me, neither can you, I replied firmly. My husband looked down at me, his eyes filled with astonishment. Then he lifted his gaze and began to shout, What's happening? You've been acting so strange today. I understand that Mom did something terrible, but why do we have to get divorced? I've told you I'm being mistreated, asked, and even with evidence and others backing me up, you still choose your almost arrested mother over me. Isn't it weird that I want to divorce someone who acts like that? I've had enough. He kept saying things, but I didn't really listen. I focused on leaving the house and getting ready for the divorce. The next morning, I went straight to get the divorce papers. When I signed and handed them to my husband, he made a scene about not wanting to divorce. But when I mentioned getting a lawyer involved, he reluctantly signed, and I sent the papers off right away. Finally, I was free to be on my own again. Later on, my husband moved out and went to live with his parents. Turns out, he relied on me a lot for housework, so he couldn't manage it alone. The house soon became a mess. Not liking the untidy environment, he ended the apartment lease and went back to his parents' house. In addition, the eldest and third sons experienced similar outcomes. On the day my husband called them to help with the compensation, they each had arguments with their wives. The wives refused to pay for something that was their mother's fault, but the brothers decided to use their savings to assist their mother without consulting their wives. This led to heated arguments and cooled feelings of love, resulting in discussions of divorce. Both brothers ended up returning to their parents' homes and refusing to do any housework. Ultimately, my mother-in-law and her 3 immature sons also moved back to their parents' house. This situation became a source of gossip among the neighbors, who spread rumors that the wives had abandoned all 3 brothers. Mother-in-law dismissed these rumors, defending her sons and blaming their wives for their troubles. Upon hearing the story, my husband nodded smugly, convinced that divorcing them was the right decision. However, my relationship with the neighbors remained good, and they didn't believe the rumors. They knew about my mother-in-law's unpleasant personality and kept their distance, quietly amused by her antics. As time went on, my mother-in-law gained a reputation as a failed parent who couldn't raise her sons properly. Meanwhile, my ex-husbands earned the label of mama's boys in the neighborhood for siding with their mother instead of standing up for their wives. Despite their persistent attempts to contact me, I changed all my contact details and moved to a new house. They couldn't find us, and they spent their days constantly complaining. Since cutting ties with my mother-in-law and the others, my life has become much more enjoyable. Being free from the stress of dealing with her is a huge relief, and making new friends has been wonderful. During the divorce process, I bonded with the ex-wives of my ex-husband's brothers over our shared frustrations with my mother-in-law. Now, we often go out for meals and enjoy shopping together on weekends. I even find myself grateful to my ex husband for introducing me to such wonderful friends. In 2 days, we're all planning to visit a new cafe. We can finally do what we want, and it feels incredibly liberating. I want to lead my own life without getting caught up in toxic relationships, and I'm genuinely thankful for the friendships I've found. I believe I would still be feeling lonely if it weren't for them. I'm truly grateful, and I hope these friendships last a lifetime.